Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unemployed Millennial Podcast. I am your host, Anne Marie, and honestly, it's been a really long time, and I'm really nervous. My stomach honestly kind of hurts, and I think it's just because I haven't updated any of my social media platforms. My YouTube channel since May of this year. I haven't posted a podcast, I think, since June or July. Probably July or even later. And I really haven't been posting on social media. I really took a break, a step back, honestly unintentional, but I'm very ready and excited to be back. And I have so many updates, and I've been wanting to film a personal podcast for such a long time. I actually tried to really organize my thoughts. My life lately has been organizing, getting some structure and routine, adding the masculine energies into my life instead of the feminine flowing being existing. So yeah, this is going to be a huge update. There are so many things that I want to talk about. I don't really know about this setup, but I figured since it's Halloween, I don't know, I kind of like the little dark, cozy vibes if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on audio, it's just me sitting in my new room where I'll tell you later where I am. And yeah, I'm really excited. I really have like so many little different updates, I've been to so many different places in this last year, and I have so many themes and things that I've been just thinking and working through in my life that I feel have been really beneficial. And I don't know, I just have so many things to share with you. So I made a little outline, and we're just going to go through it. So where have I been since last May? I was in Korea last in May. This year has been so full of traveling, which is what I really wanted. When I moved out of New York, I really wasn't sure where I wanted to go. I really didn't see myself moving back to New York at the time. It wasn't realistic for me in terms of paying, and it wasn't sustainable, but I had made a good amount of money to sustain myself from being in your mom's house and growing my platform so much. And I took on some sponsorships. I really haven't done anything to supplement my income for a pretty long time. So that's not the reason why I'm coming back, but it's good timing because I really believe in the idea of rest and sprint. This idea I just kind of came to upon like living, but it was really articulated well by Naval Ravikant. And I really do believe this. I think that there are different seasons for a reason. And especially on social media, I've talked about this a few times in podcasts before. I think the one that I remember with Ryan Ang, I'll link the episode down below. But for social media, it's an algorithm. You're feeding a beast. And it's a little bit of a Black Mirror situation where you can have this online persona and it gets reinforced by making videos on it. But if you don't take the time to actually live a life outside of social media and to develop yourself as a person and actually have a personality, then you're kind of a facade. There's nothing on the inside. You know, when you go to Universal Studios in Hollywood and they have the fake sets of like New York City and they're fake buildings, so you can't actually go inside, but it looks like a real building. That is what you are if you don't take the time to develop yourself as a creator. And I really see my channel as an extension of myself. I've done this for 11 years now, and I plan on doing it for as long as I'm alive, probably, honestly. This is like a digital diary. Like, I have my little journals right here, but this is like my personal, digital, public journal. So I have really been in a state of rest, and a lot of it was unintentional. When I first went to New York, I was posting videos back in February. I was like, this is going to be my sprint. I'm going to do a lot of videos in New York. I really tried to force it, and I've come to learn. You just can't force things sometimes. Like, I wasn't in the right headspace. I was just stressing myself out. And the more I tried and forced myself to make videos, the worse things got. And I just put myself in a downward spiral. And I've been reading this book. It's called Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. It says Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know how legit this is, but I really like the concepts. Basically, he talks about how everyone vibrates at a certain frequency and on a certain wavelength, and we're all in a magnetic field, and you attract the wavelength or frequency that you're vibrating at. And I've always felt this way, if you see someone, if you just go outside and you smile at people, then people are more likely to come and talk to you, if that's like the simplest way to explain it. But he likens it to like a radio wave. If you dial into a certain frequency, then you can hear something playing on the radio. And he says that wavelengths and like different types of waves are constantly around us, and we just have to like tune into the frequency. And upon trying to force all of my creation and videos, it was really just like putting me into a downward spiral. So I got to a point where I just had to surrender. I was like, this really isn't working. I would get lower and lower, and worse things would just start happening because I was just getting so frustrated and angry and mad. And I just had to like actually learn how to just be like, okay, this is not happening for me right now, and I have to be okay with that. And I have to figure out what I'm doing and have to learn how to just be happy with where I am right now, even if it's not something that looks great externally or is like moving my career forward. And I think that's been really good because I honestly feel like I'm at a really good place now. And at the time, I just wasn't in a good frequency. I have so many little things that I've been doing, but it's really interesting because I think another topic that I've been really thinking a lot about, especially since I haven't been posting online, and that is something that is very externally facing. And there have been times in like the last few months, or honestly like the last year, where I've just been like, okay, what am I doing? And then it's really not until I look back over a period of time that I can actually realize like, okay, I've had so much growth and have been working on so many different things. And even just the state of being that I am in is just so elevated. I kind of want to go through like a walkthrough of like this whole story and journey that I've been on, because I don't know, it's just like led to this moment, and I'm feeling like really good about it. And it's been interesting. Yeah, it really hasn't been. There have been a few times where I'm really questioning, and it's not until I actually really look back and have a contrast to see like how far I've really come. And also, it's interesting because a lot of the things that I've been learning or doing in the last year have no real external value, but internally I know that I'm doing the right things. So that's been a really interesting theme in my life, is contrast. And it's been crazy because I actually can physically go back and read my journals from like a year ago today, which is what I did like all summer. And it was just crazy the amount of growth that I have experienced in this last year, and how I've really been building my inner world and my internal state of being. But let's kind of go walk through my last 6 months. I'm drinking a Topo Chico, which honestly, I think I saw for the first time kind of here, wherever I am. Okay, so the last time I've updated my social media platforms was I was in Korea. I was there for a wedding. I vlogged the wedding, but I didn't post that wedding. We went to Busan for our friends Jane and Heejun's wedding, and it was really fun. This was our first family vacation with my now new sister-in-law and my brother and my sister and my parents, and we all went on this trip to Japan and Korea together. And that was really cool because, again, it was the first time we vacationed with my brother and my new sister-in-law. They actually just got married 2 weeks ago. So that was fun. And then that kind of started like my whole little journey of my summer travels. As you probably know, I moved out of New York City last year, kind of a long time ago, last summer. And I have been traveling back as much as I can, really, ever since. Anytime any of my friends are subleasing their places, I will take it over and pay their rent. Because first of all, I built like this whole community there. And second of all, New York City and NYC videos just do really well on social media. That was kind of the point of when we were trying to think about where we wanted to move. I was talking to Elliot and he really was pushing for New York, and I really wanted to go to New York, and I was like, this is going to be a trend. And it is. Like on social media, you see NYC in the title, it gets more views. It's like college vlogs. When I started at USC, it wasn't trendy to do college vlogs, and then that became a whole category. So that's kind of the reason why I wanted to go back. And I also just love New York City. But it's kind of funny. I feel like the universe has given me signs that I'm kind of done with it for now. And I'll walk through that as well. And those are actually kind of what my next few videos on my main channel are about. But we'll get there. So I went to Korea. I left in May, end of May. And then I kind of wanted to stay on the East Coast because I was actually dating someone for a little amount of time, and I wanted to see him. I wanted to go to New York. And so I went to Florida. My parents are now in Florida, and I stayed with them. I went and visited this guy, and then I went to New York for just 1 week. And this is actually where I filmed my video Synchronicity in New York City, which is going to be coming out within the next few days of me posting this podcast. And that was honestly kind of an insane video. I was literally there in New York City for 1 week, and I had this idea to start capturing my synchronicities. And synchronicity is something that I talk about to all of my friends all of the time. This is definitely something that I've introduced to so many people in my life, but I've never really talked about it, I think, on my channel. I've talked about it in podcasts. So if you don't know what a synchronicity is, I really did a deep dive into this subject for the last actually 5 months, or since I guess June, since filming this. So Carl Jung actually coined this concept. He wrote a whole paper on it. And essentially the definition is like meaningful coincidences. And it's to truly, like, the deeper that I got into this, the more nuanced and layered this subject is. And I'm just more and more intrigued by this topic. But a summary, in short, you'll have to watch the video if you want to see like a more thorough definition or explanation or examples of synchronicity. But before I really did a deep dive, because the more that I research into it, the harder it is to kind of explain. But before I did this whole deep dive, went down this whole rabbit hole, the definition that I gave was like, those crazy moments that kind of change the course, or it's a pivot point, something where you can look back and say like, that was a crazy coincidence. And I used to describe it as like, God's laughing at you, or God's smiling, or the universe is winking at you, or blowing you a kiss, or something that you just kind of stand there and you're like, I can't really believe that happened. A crazy coincidence. But the definition is like a meaningful coincidence, and it's supposed to reflect the inner and the outer world. So, for example, like a dream or something, a conversation that you had or a thought you had, and then you hear it in the outer world being kind of reflected back to you. Carl Jung uses a lot of symbolism with like birds or this beetle. I forget what kind of beetle it is. But just odd coincidences that are very unlikely to happen, that are meaningful in some way, that reflect the inner to the outer world. I wasn't actually planning on giving that definition, so hopefully that suffices. But if you're curious, definitely go watch the video. The synchronicity in the city video is probably the video that I'm most excited about. I've never been more stumped on a video, which always means that I really care about it and I want to do a really good job. I've actually been working on this video for like the last 5 weeks and I got really stuck on it. So I kind of stopped for a while and I picked it up again. But basically I just went to New York after I was in Florida for 1 week. And my objective for this video was I just wanted to film and capture synchronicities that I experienced in New York City, because New York City is really a place where you can experience a lot of synchronicity. You can run into people, you can just have the craziest meetings, the craziest events happen. And I was like, this is the perfect place to film this video. And it was, it really was. Just a small example that I'll give that you can see in the video is I was in Korea. My cousin and her boyfriend were actually in both Japan and Korea at the exact same time. I don't think we planned that, at least to my knowledge. Like, I think both of us had planned our trip separately, because I asked her. Somehow I like saw that she was going or connected with her, and I wasn't even supposed to go because I didn't have my passport renewed. It came the day before we left for our trip to Korea. My mom really made that happen somehow, but she and her boyfriend were there at the exact same time, unplanned. And her boyfriend at the time was getting ready to open 2 different businesses in New York. He's born and raised in New York, and he was opening a business called Moz and a restaurant / like lounge, I guess, called Jade and Clover. And I think my cousin had something to do with the name, where she either like solidified the name or she said she liked it. And I really, really like this name because it just has a lot of symbolism. Jade is this little stone right here, and in like East Asian cultures, but specifically Chinese cultures, it's like known as the stone of the heavens, and it's more highly regarded than gold. And then clover is more probably widely known. It's associated with like St. Patrick's Day. A 4-leaf clover is good luck. So I just thought the name really rolled off the tongue, and I was like, I love this name. And then I kept seeing jade. I was in Asia, so I kept seeing these jade stores or these jade buildings or just buildings called Jade all over the place. And there's this thing called confirmation bias, or like red car theory, where if you are trying to buy a red car or you drive a red car, then you keep seeing red cars everywhere. So that's kind of probably what was happening. And I remember I texted my cousin and I was just like, I keep seeing Jade everywhere. Even when I went to Miami, I would see like Jade as a building name. And so I texted her and I was like, ever since you told me the Jade and Clover thing, I keep seeing Jade everywhere. So I'm taking it as a symbol. And then a few days later, I'm literally on my way to New York. And this is kind of a last minute thing too, because I don't always have the opportunity to go if I'm subleasing my friends' places. And a friend of a friend, Matt, whose place I had stayed at in January for just a week, connected me with one of his friends. And they were like, his roommate's going to be gone for a week, so you could stay there if you want. And so I did. The day that I was going there, I ended up recording the last podcast that I posted. I guess, is that the last podcast? My episode with Megan Klein, which I caught her so last minute. I literally filmed it before I left to the airport. I brought my bags, and that was a really cool podcast for me, just because it just showed me like, you can do this. Like, I would get a lot of anxiety about just even reaching out to people, and this is like something that I'm really trying to pursue. And so that was just like an example of like, okay, you can do this. It's not a big deal. And this can be good too. So I was super excited about that episode, and I checked my Instagram DMs, and this girl named Jade, Unjaded Jade on YouTube, messaged me, and I didn't really think anything of it. And then we planned to meet up, and I had seen one of her videos before, and I think it was a Notion video, because I was trying to learn how to use Notion a really long time ago, because I was like, what's the craze? Like, everyone's obsessed with Notion. Like, how are people using this for their productivity? And I remember watching, or just seeing her video. I don't remember if I watched it. And then when I got to New York, I told Elliot that I was going to be there, and he was like, oh, do you want to come to this Notion event? It's like for influencers and marketing people. And I had seen the event in my email, and I remember texting him because his face was in it, or maybe just his name. And I remember texting him a screenshot of it and being like, lol. And he was like, hey, that's me. And then I totally forgot about the event, go to New York last minute just because I'm on the East Coast before going back home to Alaska just for 1 week. And he's like, hey, do you want to come to this event? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I would love to go. And then I remember Jade, whose video I had seen, who I'm pretty sure whose video was a Notion video. The list is full somehow, I think because Elliot is like speaking at it. He gets us in, and I tell them all I'm doing this synchronicity video. I talk about synchronicity all the time to Elliot. He started making fun of me and he called it like snickerdoodle, whatever, referencing it. And I tell them all about Jade and Clover, because it's just been in my head for like the last few weeks at that time. And then Jade, whose name is Jade, who had just reached out to me literally the day before I got to New York, who was there the exact same amount of time that I was by like a day or two, whose name is also Jade, after I told my cousin like 5 days before that this is now a symbol in my life. I found also in synchronicity that if you talk about your synchronicities to people, I think it amplifies, because I used to just like keep this all to myself. But then you get like a little crazy. You're just like, did that happen? But if you're talking about it to other people, then other people can validate. Other people would be like, okay, that is actually kind of weird. I tell everyone about Jade and Clover, and then Jade tells us that she was born on St. Patrick's Day, which is, you know, the holiday that always has like leprechauns and four-leaf clovers. So out of all the days that she could have been born, even any holiday like Valentine's Day, Christmas, no, she was born on St. Patrick's Day. And she often uses like the clover emoji for like her names, like in WhatsApp. It's like a Jade Clover. So like that's just one example of a synchronicity in that video, which is just so hard to explain. Like that took me so long in the video to try to work through. I'm still kind of working through it. But just weird stuff like that, where it's just like, okay, that's a crazy coincidence, right? Like Jade and Clover, told my cousin I think that Jade is like a symbolism because I keep seeing it everywhere. A girl named Jade messages me. I've seen her before doing a Notion video. I get invited to a Notion event, invite her to the Notion event where she tells me Jade and Clover, kind of full circle, just weird. And I really like Jade. I ended up really liking her. Before the Notion event, we went and got like coffee and just like walked around, and I just really liked her. Like we connected immediately. We talked about the law of attraction, visualization, which is like a conversation and topic that's been popping up also over and over again. Another thing, which is interesting, I'm not a very visual person, and I know this because my sister's super visual. She's very artistic, and I'm a very auditory person. That's why I love reading. I love Twitter. I love writing. I love journaling, and I love listening because I listen for like logic. That's just how my brain works. And that's why I get really annoyed at illogical people or conversations, because it just really bothers my brain. And I've always heard visualization is something you should do to like manifest the reality you want, but it's really hard for my brain to visualize. And John Green actually posted a tweet that was like, how visual is your brain? And then there's like an apple, and it's like a scale of 1 is you can see a red apple if you close your eyes and imagine or visualize a red apple. On 5, I'll post a visual for my people watching on YouTube. On 5, on the end of the scale, it's just like a very vague outline of like a blob of an apple. And that's kind of where my brain is at. And so vision boarding is important, I think, for the non-visual thinkers. And I am not even kidding. This isn't coming just from the spiritual world. I hear everyone talking about vision boarding and mood boarding, like from all different corners of successful people and also spiritual people. But that's also been a constant theme. And in my video, I talk about how like she mentions it. And the last time I was in New York, Steezy Kane mentioned it. So I'm just really, really excited about that video. It's honestly probably going to be my favorite video that I've ever made. And it's very different from videos that I've made in the past, because for the last 11 years, my last 11 years on YouTube, that is a long time. I've always just vlogged. And I've talked about this. My theory of creating content is capture, create, and curate. I've only ever really captured, which is vlogging or like podcasting. You're just like sitting here watching a raw conversation of me by myself talking to you all. Creating, I think, is a very different thing. That's like if you have a movie that you're watching, a big ass team or someone took the time to write a screenplay, write every single thing that you see that's going to be on the screen, and then they took that script and then filmed everything that was on that script. They're creating that from their brain and then bringing it to life so that you can watch it on the screen. Where for me, I don't plan out really until even the extent of this outline. I don't plan out my videos a lot, and a lot of YouTubers do. Like a lot of like YouTube advice is like, don't even touch the record button until you have a title and a thumbnail. I never do that. And I actually think it's kind of more authentic. If that's a big value of mine, is just like being authentic, being real. But I think you can still do that in a way. And I feel like I'm old enough now. I've been on YouTube for long enough now. I've had so many different life experiences. I'm 27. It's not like, have like the craziest of things, but for the YouTube world and like my audience, I feel like I'm at that like big sister place where I can like actually tell and talk about the lessons that I've learned in life. And I am really excited for my next era on YouTube to be more creating. So that's what I'm super excited about. I'm really excited about that video, so go check it out. Like, honestly, it's been a mental puzzle to get that one done. But that is what I did in New York. And then I went back home to Alaska. We had some family friends that I wanted to help my parents host, and that was amazing. And then I planned on going back to New York for the entire summer because that's when I moved out the year prior. And I felt like that experience was kind of a little bit taken away from me just because I didn't plan to not be there in the summer. And I kept kind of like going back even the summer that I moved out. But I didn't feel ready. So that was kind of the crazy thing, is literally looking back and seeing the place that I was at this time last year. And at the time it was this time last summer, because I would read my journals I was in New York for the second time, June 27th to July 14th. I was supposed to be there all summer, but I'll tell you, the weird stuff happened. Or maybe I'll save it and make you watch my video now. I'll tell you. This is what the podcast is for. But it was honestly like kind of emotional to go back and read my journals, because it just showed me how much I had grown and how much I wasn't giving myself credit for being so frustrated by like not being able or not posting videos or just feeling so blocked. And so reading this was honestly really crazy. I want to kind of do something with this, but I don't know. It'd be like I would journal about how I just like didn't even feel ready to go back to New York City. And I remember thinking that I needed to have someone go with me, and to have the year pass and to find myself. I went to New York like an unreasonable amount of times, and I really sometimes in the end, in hindsight, didn't really have a reason to go. Like I wouldn't make my videos. I wouldn't make that many videos. It is a huge money sink because I'm spending money on flights. I pay people's rent. I didn't even really negotiate people's rent until like more recently. I would pay their full rent while they were gone. And, I would think that I would make all these videos and then end up just being blocked and like not able to. But just the fact that I went from me thinking that I wasn't ready to go out and come back, because just the state that I kind of left it in, I felt like, I don't know, I felt like everything was kind of, it's like everything kind of just crumbled, and I had like what I thought was a foundation, and it just disappeared. Like the rug was swept from underneath me in a way, and I was like, I need to build myself up to be able to even go back. And like I remember Elliot and Nick came to visit me after I left New York, and Elliot was just like, when are you coming back? Like the world, YouTube, everything's gonna move on whether you come back or not, so you might as well just come back. And I literally was just like, I don't have like the strength to. It sounds dramatic, But like I couldn't imagine like finding a place by myself, like going by myself, and then a year later to have looked back on the year and to see how I really just did that. Like I paid for myself, like I found places, like and they all just like fell into my lap, kind of like a synchronicity, honestly. Like I was able to go back like so many times, and I had an amazing time, and I built my own little community. Like I can go around New York and have like my own community in life, and that just like wasn't the case when I left. So I'm very like proud of myself, and I could only really see that when I looked back, because when I was in New York the second time, or like whatever, over the last year, and I was getting frustrated at myself because I just didn't know. I'll talk about blocking too. Like this is a whole topic that I want to talk about. But I would get really frustrated because I'm like, I'm not creating, and on the outside to everyone else, like this is my job. I've made this my job. It looks like I'm not doing anything, but really there's been so much internal growth, and it's really only something that I and probably the people in my physical surrounding can see, but it's something that I'm just really proud of. And again, I could really only see that when I had something to compare it to. So I don't know, I was really hard on myself, and that kind of just made things worse. But really looking back, I just feel like I can do whatever, go wherever, even if I have to do it by myself, like I can do it. And coming even from like years ago in college, or like when I was at USC and I was like in dating my college boyfriend, like I couldn't even go to like Target by myself. Now I do like everything by myself, and I'm trying to work on that and become like less independent, because I am trying to, find a partner, like a boyfriend. And you kind of need to like, be, I think as a woman, it's not, I can do everything by myself, but I don't want to all the time. Like, I don't want to live my whole life like that. I think it's much easier to be in partnership with people. And I mean, my family is always there for me, and I have amazing friends that are there for me. But it's amazing to know that you can, or I can do that if I want to. I got myself. So that was kind of a learning that I had, just looking back. And it's been really, really satisfying and just like special to be able to actually like look back on this and like have a record of how I was feeling, because it's just like it shows my growth. I have these little like bookmarks. I don't know if I want to read my journal right now, and I should have probably like planned out little sections, but I don't think I even planned out this part of like me talking about this. I'm not gonna read this part. Yeah, okay, never mind. I do want to try to do like a video or something about this, because it is just kind of crazy to look back on. So we'll see. Moving on. Okay, so I went back to Alaska, hosted our family friends. It was an amazing time. Then I went back to New York because I was like, I'm going to spend the whole summer here. I'm going to do my next summer sprint, and that's what's going to happen. I'm going to make money, do sponsorships, and it's going to be really worth my time being here. And that was my plan. And the universe was like, ha, no, it's not. So that was a really bizarre trip to New York. And this was the first time I have ever been so excited to leave New York City, because before this point in time, New York has only treated me extremely well. And New York to me represents opportunity. It represents being able to like chase your dreams, and it's just like a place where you can pursue what I'm trying to do. And then I stayed at the same place that I had stayed the week prior. And the first night I got there on the date that I did to attend a creator camp event. And that's relevant because I'm currently living with some of those boys who are involved in that. And I think they're going to come through because they're climbing right now, and I want to have them stop by. But the first night I was there, I was in bed and I just couldn't sleep. We all went to like this little kava bar that I had been going to in my previous neighborhood that I like made a bunch of new friends at. And I took like all these boys, and it's supposed to like relax you, I guess. And I just could not sleep. I was just like, I should be really tired. I think the day I got there at like 8 a.m., I had a red eye and then I took a nap. And so I went to the event after my nap and then I tried going to sleep and I was just like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to sleep right now. And I'm like in bed on my computer. I'm feeling sorry for myself because I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere. I haven't been posting when I've been wanting to. And it wasn't until I actually took this from an email that I wrote to myself and I listed out all the places that I had been and all the traveling that I had done. And I hadn't been anywhere for like more than 2 weeks at a time, even like a week at a time in like the last like 3 months. And so I was like, okay, that makes more sense why I don't feel like I'm moving any progress on my goals. I saw like a quote, I think from Chris Williamson today or something that was like, you can't get mad at the progress that you haven't made for the time that you haven't put in. And so that's kind of what was happening. And it was, again, looking back where I was like, okay, what have I been doing for the last like 2 months? I had been traveling and spending time with my family and just moving around a ton. And so I was like, okay, this makes sense why I'm not making progress, but I was still really frustrated. And it was weird because for some reason I felt the need, or I just did. I prayed. I was like, I just, please, universe, God, I need a change. And I really have not, I don't remember the last time I've prayed. Like, I grew up going to church and I hadn't been to church since my brother made me when I was in high school. He didn't make me, but he tried to have me come along with him. And I don't know why I decided to do this, but it was interesting timing because very shortly after, as I was writing my little email to myself, my foot starts itching. And I'm just like, okay, why is my foot itching so much? And I look at my feet and there are like 8 tiny little bugs eating my foot. And I'm just like, what is happening? They turned out to be fleas. And I actually ended up, that trip, I was supposed to be there like all summer, or at least for like a month or so. And I was supposed to be moving from that place, and then 4 days later, I would be going to DC because I wouldn't have a place to stay. So then I'd be coming back. I think I would have been moving to like 4 or 5 different places. And the next day after I had prayed, after my synchronicity video, one of the synchronicities was like my intern turned manager, Ariana, and my roommate at the time in the same place whose room I was staying at this time, they both told me to go to this place in Williamsburg called Devotion Coffee Shop. And I ended up going there and just literally running into people, like random people. You'll have to watch the video to find out who. But then I wanted to continue my synchronicity video during this time, which I don't really think it extends that much, but this is kind of like the cliffhanger of the video. And so I literally don't sleep. I can't sleep because I'm just like, I need to go wash these sheets. I need to take this to a laundromat. Mind you, there are no pets. There are no dogs or anything, but New York just has bugs. So I pull an all-nighter. I end up going to work out in their gym below, and then I walk to Devotion to get like a coffee because I'm just like, I'm just not going to sleep, I guess. And then I run into a girl who was in my sorority. I was in a sorority for 1 year at USC in my sophomore year, and this girl is just there, and I tell her, I'm just like, I think we exchange like hellos, and then since I'm filming my synchronicity video, I just ask her, I go up to her again after we initially talk and after we had ordered, and I was just like, hey, do you want to be in my video? I think this is like kind of crazy. And she was literally writing her morning pages, because the first time I learned about synchronicity, I learned it from Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, and she like introduces the concept, and that's when I like started really opening up my world to synchronicity. And then I later did a deep dive and found Carl Jung's paper and like all this additional stuff. But she's writing her morning pages. She probably maybe even has like the Artist's Way like with her, and she's like, oh, that's so funny, I do know what that is because I'm literally writing my morning pages right now. And basically I tell her that I'm there and that I'm gonna have to like switch to all these different places, and she tells me that she's actually leaving for like a month that Friday or like a few days later. And so I'm like, okay, no way. So I end up getting a place to stay. I don't have to like switch 5 different places. But basically, I at the time knew nothing about fleas. Now I know a lot about fleas. I just knew that they weren't bed bugs. But luckily, if they're bed bugs, which now New York probably has a bed bug problem after the Paris bed bug spread. But you're kind of like screwed if they are bed bugs. But I had fleas and I didn't really know that much about them. I ended up kind of carrying them to her new place, like days later after I do all this laundry, and it ends up being completely fine. But I, at this point, am like physically exhausted. I think that I've like spread basically like bed bugs. I think that this is like an irreversible mistake that I've made, and I have like fiery burning feet from all of these flea bites. And I was also there when the fires, like it was the worst air quality in the entire world for a day in New York. So I had fleas, fires, and then I had a friend who was having a wedding in Alaska, and I was like, oh, I won't make it. I'm like trying to be in New York. I don't know, like a series of more like weird signs and synchronicities just made me leave New York. And I left early. I had like already paid rent, and I thought I destroyed these people's apartments. I thought I was going to have to pay their rent and move in and take over their place for like the rest of the year. That's like literally where my brain was going. Because I just thought I like ruined their apartment. It ended up being completely fine. I just cleaned more than I have in my entire life. Like I vacuumed and I got all of like the supplies and I got all the sprays, like the natural sprays and supplies, and it was fine. But I had never been more excited to leave New York. And it was just a weird series of events because this was like my dream apartment and I had just prayed. My prayers were answered. And then I just kind of felt like I ruined the opportunity. But I don't know. A lot of these things might sound like crazy to like just have these like weird takeaways. But I really think that this was like, for me, in my interpretation of these events, I was like, the universe is just telling me like, I don't need to be in New York. I had spent the entire last year continuously traveling back and forth to really just prove to myself that I could do it. And at this point, I know that I can. I have like many opportunities to go to New York. I've been there, I don't know how many times. And I don't know, it's just something that I don't need anymore. And that was kind of like my realization. And it was weird, but also very gratifying leaving that time. The time that I thought I would spend the entire summer and was so excited to be there. I was excited to leave. And I was so relieved to be back in Anchorage, where it wasn't extremely hot, where it wasn't like 100 almost degrees, where my feet were not burning from flea bites, and where I could just exist peacefully at my home in Alaska and have like the best rest of the summer. So that was kind of like a crazy but very special experience. And I don't know, I at this point still hadn't posted any videos, but I was so excited about all of my like synchronicities. And then even like the fleas, like I got fleas in NYC. I was like, this is a whole storyline on its own, and it's cool. I think the coolest stories are real stories. Like a lot of YouTube and even YouTube editors try to encourage like the best storytelling, but I'm just like, I think the best stories are the stories that are real. And if you can make a real event, if you can make an amazing story out of a real event, I think that is like the pinnacle of content success. So I've just been kind of sitting on like 5 videos and just like editing everything. And, you know, thinking about this podcast and like just constantly moving back and forth. And I'm like, should I, you know, start doing my podcast with people in Alaska and reaching out to like my friends, or should I just start doing them virtually? And all of this different stuff that I'm trying to do. And like, should I bring people to Alaska and continue like my Alaska Friends series? Just like a lot of these things. And that's kind of another learning that I've had is I can do everything I want to do, but not all at once. I had been trying to do so many things. I was spinning my wheels. I mean, I'm still like a little bit doing that. Like yesterday, I had an editing day. Today, I was like, I need to film my personal podcast. I've been wanting to do this forever. And tomorrow, I'm going to be working on an essay for a writing course that I'm doing that I'm really excited about, that I'll tell you about too. But that was like a crazy, crazy learning for me, and just being like, I do not need to be in New York City. I thought I did. I thought like maybe I would move there. I don't think I'm going to. And I still love New York City. I still think I'll be back, but it's not in my desperate plans to be like, I need to go back to New York as soon as possible. I mean, I was never like desperate about it, but that's my mindset. It's like I was just floating back from Alaska to New York to visit my parents, and then back to Alaska and New York. And that's like all I was doing. And I wasn't in any single place for more than 2 weeks. And that's another thing that I want to talk about, is like the container that you're in. So, okay, maybe I'll finish my little list of like where I've been. So I went back to Alaska, and then I went back to New York one more time for a week. And this was a completely different vibe, where I was just like, I'm not going to come here and try to force myself to make a video. I'm just coming here to say goodbye at this point. And I was able to meet my editor in person. I was able to stay at this girl's place, and it was like the best place that I'd stayed. It was clean. And I just had an amazing time. And I even ran into like more little synchronicities there. But that was just like a perfect little bow to close that chapter on New York. And it was relaxed. It was amazing. The weather was amazing. I had an amazing time. It wasn't a good use of money, but again, I think even as like an artist or someone who has a creative career, or someone just who tells yourself story, like humans tell stories, like that's how we exist. We need to make meaning out of things. And for me, that was like the perfect ending of New York and my time there, and me being like, okay, I don't need to come back for a while. Like this is it for the time being. Like I don't need to plan my next trip. This was the perfect ending to me being here. Then I went back to Alaska, and this is kind of where things like energetically went downhill. I love being in Alaska, and I was like super excited about everything in New York and all of my learnings and realizations and all of my footage that I had to edit in my synchronicity video and everything. But this is kind of where I don't know, when I'm in Alaska, it's like a different universe to me, and I can kind of pull away from like everything, and I can imagine a world, like a different life, where it's just like I don't have like any obligations to like social media, to like the outside world. It could be a really good thing. It is a very healing place for me and rejuvenating place for me, and I'm so grateful that I'm actually like grew up there, because I don't know, I just feel really lucky that I have that as like a world. But it can also make me very stagnant in what I am trying to do and what I'm trying to create. So I heard this quote that I absolutely loved. I think I'd recently discovered Blue, the Deja Blue podcast, and she said this, and I'd been talking and thinking about stagnancy a lot in the last summer and last few months. And so when I heard this quote, I loved it. And it was, even stagnant water becomes toxic. So that's kind of how I would describe my time in Alaska. I was only there for 28 days, but everything just came to a stop. So this next chapter was actually, it kind of pulled me out of a little downward spiral that I was going in. And that is where I am right now, and my move to Austin, Texas. So when I was actually in New York during the fleas situation, I had these guys call me, the founders of Creator Camp, Chris, Ryan, Simon and Max. They all put on these like events that I met like this whole new community of creators at after I left Your Mom's House. It was kind of like the next community that I was like, okay, I can really see myself like investing in these people and this group. And I really do like love this group. I think they're doing an amazing thing. And honestly, it took me about 8 years to make a YouTube friend. And it took me a little bit longer to make a friend from YouTube, that I met from YouTube, that I would just be friends with, even if we didn't have YouTube in common. It took me so long to meet people because I started 11 years ago and no one was really not as many people were doing it. And I knew that I would eventually catch up, like online world would blend with reality world. And I think we're at a really interesting point of time because everything is blending now. But it's so crazy to me to see what they have and what they're building, because they're really bringing a bunch of creators together. And I've had experiences over like the last 11 years where I've been invited to different events where people do put people together. The first being Dote. If you're a YouTube girly, you might know who they are. But I've said since the start of Dote, because I went to the first event, and I've been saying that anytime I think you get a group of creative people together, magical things happen. I met Shelby Church, who I would later try starting a company with, and I apprenticed for her. And I met her there. I think Emma Chamberlain and her little girl group, they were like called the Dote Girls before the whole downfall of Dote. The founder of Dote is actually from Alaska. And I kind of got an inside look because my old USC roommate, Tasha Farsace, Fiercely Tasha, interned for them. And so they got a lot of their insights and like ideas from Tasha and Gretchen Garrity. So I don't know. I just had a really interesting inside look. Like I feel like I was like the center of information for the downfall of Dote. It was like kind of fascinating. But what was I saying with that? Yeah. So that was the first time I experienced like some group, an organization bringing creators together, and what I saw from that. And these boys at Creator Camp are kind of doing the same thing with creators. So I really believe in them and I believe in what they're doing. And they called me and they were like, hey, would you want to move in with us for 3 months in Austin? Because I have been wanting to move to Austin. Post-graduating, I wanted to live in a few different places. Austin was actually one of the places I wanted to live. I remember when I was graduating, like Bumble, there's like a bug flying around, but Bumble was headquartered here. There was like a small, like growing tech scene. I really wanted to move to San Francisco to be in tech until I actually started going there. I was also dating a guy there, and I would go to like Dolores Park and actually get harassed by houseless people, like not in a good way at all. And I was just like, this is actually unsafe for me. I do a lot of things by myself. I like to go on walks. I go out on my own, and I did not feel safe there. And then I wanted to move to New York and Austin. And so I don't know, it's cool being able to go and live in all the places that I wanted to post-graduating. And I remember these boys were deciding where they wanted to make their next home base, because similar to me, they were just internet friends and they were just kind of like floating around. And they were like thinking of like Nashville. And I was like, if you guys go to Austin, I will go with you guys, like when you guys do. And so they went to Austin. They decided on Austin. We have like actually kind of a squad out here, like 3 different houses. And the guys called me because they were like, we have an open spot if you want to come and live with us. And I was like, I absolutely do. And I'm so grateful for them because, again, I've been wanting to come out here. The guy that I was dating is actually here, and that kind of ended. And so that was like, I don't know, it's kind of a lot easier if you have like a reason to go somewhere. And I would have to probably like find a place on my own, or I guess the thing is I just didn't have to do that. Like they picked a spot already. They picked this place. They provided like an instant community of people that I actually like. And we have like similar values. Like they're doing the same thing. So it was really cool. Everything kind of aligned very perfectly, very synchronously. And I'm very grateful for the boys for being here, for getting me here, and for also just getting me out of Alaska, because I was just kind of stagnant. I was going around in like circles, not really doing much. And I delayed my flight like 3 different times just because I was like trying to like close out different things that I didn't even end up closing out. And I ended up finishing a lot of those things here, which brings me to my next portion of topic. And I'm going to try to move with this a little bit faster because we're already somehow at an hour. And I I don't know how we got here. So I've been in Austin now for 40 days. And even in Austin, like so many different things have been happening. The guys got here a little bit before me. I lived with them for 2 weeks, and then they went and did their base camp in Oregon. I stayed. I hosted my sister, my mom, our family friend, and then I went to my brother's wedding in Houston, which is really cool that I could be here and like have everyone just come here. And then we all just drove to Houston. It was super easy and I don't know, just very convenient. And now I've kind of been here for this, I would say like, I actually feel very settled in here now, and I'm working on my videos, and I'm like actually taking the time. I actually have the time to, you know, like do a podcast and update you all. Like it feels very good and stable here right now. I wouldn't describe this house as stable. Like there's like a lot happening. I'm living with three early 20s boys, which is, it's interesting because I'm 27 now, and I've literally had dreams about, I don't think it's related to this, but honestly it could be. We've been having like weird dreams in this house. But I've like had dreams where like a baby, I don't think it's related, but where like a baby is being handed to me, and it's not my baby, but it's like a baby. I've had 3 different dreams like this, and I'm like, maybe I just feel like I'm a mom here. Or one of my friends interpreted it as like, I think you have like this thing that you're really excited about and you like really want to protect it. And that is kind of how I feel about like everything that I'm working on right now. And it's cool being here and being like in a place for more than, this is the longest amount of time that I've spent in one place, possibly for the entire year. I don't know. I'll have to look back, but like at least for the last, since May. And it's amazing. It feels so good to be actually like working on my things and my projects and like moving forward on them instead of like kind of trying to work on them and then just like going to a different place. It feels really good. So that's the end of like where I've been for like the last months. A lot of what I've been talking about is like me being very stuck and blocked in what I've been trying to create. And I kind of want to talk about this because I think it's very valid, but I don't see like really anyone talking about this online, and I don't think it's a bad thing. So I'm going to try to, this is a big topic to cover. I think I'm not going to spend too long on it, but I don't know. I think it's interesting because if you look at my output of videos in the last year, it's not a lot. Like, and that's not on purpose. Like I actually really tried at a lot of different points, and I probably even have like footage of me just like trying and being frustrated and not being able, just like physically getting frustrated at myself for feeling like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like I would try to film and it just wouldn't work out, or I describe it as my throat chakra being blocked. It's like, and I want to say that this is valid because, you know, if you have, first of all, I'm someone who had like some life events, like some childhood events, you could describe them as traumatic, that blocked my throat chakra, where there were situations where I felt like I couldn't speak. And some were like more serious than others, where it's like I felt like I was frozen and I couldn't speak or like get out of my body or like use my body. So these things are valid in my family. Like we've also grown up with a lot of like mental, atypical what am I trying to say? I forget like the technical like PC term, but just basically like atypical mental, you know, like ADD, ADHD, OCD, like that runs in my family. And so while maybe if you have like a broken leg or a broken foot, people will be like, oh, that's why you can't walk as fast. If you have a mental blockage or something going on mentally, you can't see it, so it doesn't seem real. But I just want to be the person to be like, I think it's valid. It's valid. So that was an odd intro into a blocked throat chakra, but again, like I would just try to force it. And I honestly think like if you're in social media, at least for me, as if I cannot lie. If I start lying, my face immediately gets red. So yeah, it's really tough for me if I feel like I can't make a video, or if I try to force things, because if it's not authentic, if it's not genuine, it's just not gonna happen for me because you can see it on my face. Like I just can't lie, and I can't like really fake things. And I don't know, you can just tell, or at least I can. And I think you would be able to tell too. So after a point of forcing things and getting into this negative, whatever that Joe Dispenza talks about, this negative magnetic field, and just actually seeing in my physical reality me unintentionally attract like worse and worse things. An example of this is I pooped my pants in NYC. Like this exact thing happened, but I had another whole instance of this happening, just like a cycle until you learn and you elevate from that level. It's just kind of crazy how that works. Like things repeat themselves until you learn the lesson. But a really good example of this was literally I pooped my pants in NYC. I'll link it below. So after a point in time of trying to force myself and getting into this downward spiral, I just had to learn how to surrender. I just had to be like, okay, if I can't post a YouTube video, I just can't post a YouTube video. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just have to be okay with this reality for now and try different things until I can actually get there. Okay, this is going to be a good segue because my roommates are coming in now. I can hear the doors, and I've covered the topic of the blockage and why and how it's valid. And then I'll get into how I think I unblocked and that whole process after I introduce my roommates and take a little break. Chris, Max, come in. That was perfect timing. Come say hi to my podcast.
You're all dressed up.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Who are you?
My name is Chris. I'm Anne-Marie's roommate.
Put your face closer.
Is that close enough?
How did we meet?
How did we meet? You came to the first creator camp. Oh, actually, we met because
I'm stinky.
I'm stinky as well. Can you smell me?
Oh my.
No, you actually
No?
smell kind of good.
Oh, thank you.
Or you don't smell bad.
I'm gonna smell bad.
Smell Max.
You both don't smell that bad.
Really?
How did I meet Anne-Marie? Well, I was coming to interview her previous roommate, Elliot Choi.
Okay, that was actually crazy.
Right?
That was crazy.
No way.
And we were just like side characters in Anne-Marie's life.
I was like literally leaving to go to DC, and this is like our house was not doing too well, and I was like running out the door to escape, and he was just there, and I was like, what is Elliot doing right now? and
my brother was
Yeah.
there, and you're probably
Rob?
like, yeah,
Yeah.
it was me, Rob, and James. And Anne-Marie's probably like, what the heck is Elliot doing?
I actually did. I was like, what is this man scheming? And then you like said that later, and I was, and then James like knew one of my USC classmates, Rob, also
Yeah.
Rob, and yeah, just like a weird series of events. Okay, hi Max.
Hello.
I'm trying to think of a fun question for you.
I love the lighting.
Yeah, right. I was like gonna put all my lights on, but I was like, it's almost Halloween.
Is that a reading light?
Yeah, I got it from IKEA just with Chris.
These are very nice.
Okay, what's a fun question for Max?
How old are you?
Okay, yeah, how old are you?
20.
Wait,
How-
when did you guys first meet? Was it at Camp 1.0?
No.
It was
Oh.
before.
Oh, and you
Carrot?
at a carrot dinner party in New York City. This is almost 2 years ago.
Too loud.
Oh, too loud. Sorry. At a carrot dinner party almost 2 years ago.
That's too quiet. You were 18 at the time.
Yeah. What do you want me to say?
Okay, ask him a question.
Ask Max
Yeah.
a question. I have a great question, Max. How did you think of the idea of energetic echolocation? Like, where did that stem from?
Explain. Is that your idea?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Can you explain what it is as well?
And-
It's a good concept.
And where it came from, too?
It's trademarked. It's gonna be mine. Where did the idea come from? Oh.
What?
I know where it came from. I was talking to a friend. Let's just call it that. I was talking to a friend in Austin, Texas. And he asked, we were talking about community and how I was able to build a community at a younger age and just like meet a bunch of like best friends that I clicked with super well. And he was like, what do you attribute it to? And I was like, I don't know. And so I was kind of forced to think of something on the spot. And my idea was, I was thinking about bats earlier in the day and how bats, like, they're just like kind of blind and like in caves, they just put out like beams of echolocation, and then it like bounces off, and then they know where they are based on that. And I was like, maybe I've just done that my whole life with the internet, and I've like put out bits of myself, whether it's stories, vulnerability, ideas. And with the internet, you can put out these beams at scale, and these beams can hit and touch other people and bounce off of them and come back to you. And so that's how I've met my best friends. Is
And you don't even know what beams like will attract like which people. But that was the interesting thing with like talking to Ryan and like you, I guess. I feel like I've talked about this with Ryan. It's like sometimes you think like what you're putting out, maybe it doesn't seem fruitful, but it's like the people, or I don't know, perception trumps reality, but it's like the people who matter or who you actually want to connect with, like, no, you know? Does that make sense? Did that make any sense?
The people that you want to connect with, no.
Yeah.
But also it's like when you are a bat, your eyes are closed. So you're putting out the beams. You don't know like where the walls are or where the beams are going to hit. But they hit and they come back to you. But you don't actually have control over where the beams go. But that guides you. And that helps, like, even though you're like blind going through the universe or the world, that guides you to where you need to go, and it helps you find your way. So that's energetic echolocation.
That's like interesting because I was talking about this book and it talks about like it talks about like, you know, the magnetic field that you're in, and everyone like vibrates at a certain frequency or a wavelength. And so if you like elevate your vibration, you can like, the things that you attract are more elevated. It's probably the same.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same concept.
That's definitely like a parallel.
Yeah.
And
Also,
go ahead.
I was going to say, as I was climbing, I noticed that like my throat chakra was like closing in.
Why?
I just saw throat chakra. No, I just saw that.
Oh.
I don't know what that means.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Haha.
messed up.
Well, you were saying something.
Oh, I was just gonna finish. Also, yeah, that's messed up. That's messed up, Chris. That's messed up. Yeah, what else is on this? Oh,
You guys will have to watch.
it also is like an adapted theory of communication. So I think it's also like we have the internet, but right now the internet is used just like as an endless void of consumption for people, and so it doesn't actually like amplify like our humanity and like what is core to being a human. And a lot of that is like how we connect and communicate to each other. But basically, the energetic echolocation is like a framework to communicate with other people in a digital way. But to recognize that it's a tool for communication, to make friends, to meet with people that you wouldn't necessarily meet geographically. So it's just to like make friends essentially and build community. Yeah. It's not like using the internet as a tool to be famous or to make money, but something that like anyone can do. So it's like how can anyone use the internet to like amplify their life, not just be like a creator. So that's my TED Talk.
Okay, that was actually very well articulated, and also that's like what my second essay is about. It's like it's like a call to action, and I'm like, everyone should create content because it's like the way that you open like the floodgates of like synchronicity to connect with people. Because I also talked about how when I started, like not enough people were doing like anything on social media, so it has actually taken like 11 years. It took me like 8 years to find like a friend that I actually liked through social media, that we didn't just have the connection of like being on YouTube. So I was like saying how cool it is that you guys are creating this community, because there's like enough people, but it's like the echolocation thing where people can actually, I don't know, the worlds are blending, you know, like the internet and the reality.
Yeah, even Kyle, I don't know if you saw his most recent post, but he was talking about
Kyle who?
Kyle goes off. He said every one of his best in-person experiences in his life has started digitally.
Yeah.
Which is like super interesting, because that's how it's been for me now too. Wow. Pretty much.
Yeah, because it's also like a way, like, I mean, most people just like settle for the friends that are like physically around them, and with the internet there's like, you can actually know someone's like interest or vibe in a really like in a much better way than you would think, you know. Okay, that was very interesting actually. Thank you for both for that. Chiming in. All right, we're going to the concert. Okay, bye-bye. Oh, fun. I love the setup. Thank you. Oh shit. Chris almost just tripped over a cord. Okay, that was really fun. Little addition. I'm glad that they came in, and you can see why I am grateful for their presence. We have another roommate, Simon, but he is currently in LA or just somewhere in California on an offsite for his coffee company, a coffee brand that he's working with called Sunny Day Co. And he has been providing coffee for all of us, so I will shout it out, and hopefully he gives me an affiliate code for a discount. Okay, going to wrap this up. So I don't even know if I'm wrapping this up. Yes, I am. Okay, I can feel their sweat on the sides of my body. Okay, also funny thing is when I moved in, my expectation was that we were moving here for 3 months until December 1st. I packed actually no clothes. I didn't pack a single pair of pants. I was going to extend my flight, but they were like, we're hosting a housewarming. So I was like, okay, I have to be there for the housewarming. Funny story is I actually missed it because I've never done this before, but during my connecting flight, I fell asleep and just, I don't know. I set an alarm on my watch. Like even my mom called me. I didn't even have my phone on Do Not Disturb, but it just didn't go through at all. It was weird. But I ended up missing, I had to take a later flight and I missed my flight by like 2 minutes. Like I got there like 2 minutes before the actual boarding time, takeoff time, departure time. I watched as the plane backed up to leave and she was like, I'm sorry, there's no way you can get on that plane. So I ended up not even making the housewarming party. I got there at the very end of it. But my point being was that I packed super last minute. I was actually backing up my external hard drive and I spent all of my last hours in Anchorage doing that instead of like packing clothes and stuff. And I seriously was like, maybe I'll just extend my time in Alaska more and delay and just come later. And then I was just like, I'm really in a spiral of stagnancy. Like I just need to go and leave and leap and make the leap, even if I don't feel ready. And that has actually been a theme of my recent learnings too, but those are very like recent, so I don't have those fully integrated yet, so I won't talk about those. But it's been a topic that I've been journaling about and literally even journaled today. Anyway, talking about unblocking, and I also said unlocking because I think that this has been actually kind of crazy. First of all, I think the reasons for a blocked throat chakra can be many, and I really don't have a way to diagnose like why I was feeling so blocked. I honestly think a part of it, like this time last year, was actually not a good time. I don't know. I want to keep things like in a very positive light because I think I've also spent like a lot of time victimizing kind of myself, and I'm over that of why I haven't been posting on the internet. And I also don't want to shine anyone on a bad light because my experiences in the last like 2 years have been really good. And I don't know. Basically, I don't know. If you're watching this, you probably know that I was a part of a content house. This time last year, I wasn't even a part of this drama, but basically, exactly, I think this time last year, the house ended after I left. 6 months after I left in May, June, July, August, September, October. 5 months later, the rest of the house ended, and it didn't end well. And it ended with people making videos about the other house members. I mean, there were only 4 of us, and the rest of the 3 like were making videos online about just like the downfall of the house in not a really good way, in my opinion. And that really, even though I was not a part of the online drama, that really affected me, and I like was really sad over that. Like, I don't know, it just was really sad to me. Like it was not a good mental headspace either for that, and I don't know, it wasn't great. And so it's been kind of tough for me to navigate how to still have my channel and be authentic without, I don't know, it felt like, again, like I made all of my videos in 2021, end of 2021 and 2022 until I left, about living in New York City with 3 other people, 3 other roommates. And then that just stopped. And so I gained a lot of subscribers. I think I moved into the house at like, I don't know, like 170. I don't even know. Like, I don't even know how many subscribers I have right now. But I gained at least like 100,000 subscribers from that experience. So that's like almost double my following was from that experience. And then I just didn't really know how to gracefully navigate like even processing like my feelings or like real experiences that I had. And my channel has always been about me and my life, and it's always been like an authentic depiction of the accurate reality of like what's happening. And that's why I love including other people, because it's just fun to have like these experiences. But I also think it's really important to like show what actually happened. And for me, it was just like, I don't know, it was just tough for me. And I think that's part of what created like a little blockage. But it's been like so long ago now. It's been over a year. But I don't know. I also have to give myself like a little bit of grace. It's like we were like really close for a pretty long time, and we did all these things together, and then that kind of just ended abruptly. And so I also think it's okay to be like sad about stuff like that and like relationships ending. And it took me a while. It took me longer than I wanted it to, but that also just means I like cared a lot and that it actually affected me. So that's kind of, I think, what contributed to a blocked throat chakra is me just feeling like not knowing how to spread my truth in like a way that wasn't like harmful or like creating drama or whatever. So that played a part in it. Just not being in a good, like, I don't know. I'm in like such a better headspace now, and not being in a good headspace, I think, never is a good thing on social media. One time I was talking to this guy, this creator at Your Mom's House party named Rhino, and he was like, how much of being and posting on social media do you think is about being in a good mental headspace? And I was like, I don't know, like at least 50%. Like you have to be in a good headspace. And he's like, I think it's 95%. And I kind of agree with him. Like if you're not in a good headspace, it's kind of impossible to post online without just like being a drag or without having to like pretend. And again, I can't lie. So like if I'm not in a good place, you could probably tell. And I just like don't want to spread that on the internet. And I'm like someone who experiences the whole waves of emotion, but I try as hard as possible to like make my videos like uplifting and a net positive for the internet, and also like content with a purpose somewhat. So that kind of all is the why. And let me tell you, because I've actually been making progress for the first time in months, and it feels so amazing. And I think I've done some things, actually tangible things, to unblock my throat chakra. Let me walk through those. Okay, so the first thing, I was kind of obsessed with this idea of a container. But I was scrolling through Instagram, and Julia Cameron, our queen, posted a random ass post, and it just said, most blocked creatives are blocked not by a lack of talent, but by a lack of containment. I sent this to my friend Catherine, who we always talk about Julia Cameron together. You can watch our podcast together where we cover her in depth. And the caption for this post was, be very careful to share your early ideas only with very safe people. And I sent this to her, and I was just like, what does this mean? And she was like, I don't really know. And then I was just like, okay, I feel like if you can't really express yourself, then perhaps your container of your family and friends and the current people that you surround yourself with is not the container that is supportive of your creativity and expression. For example, like if you have drama or if you're in stress, you're creating from a place of scarcity and fear and, I don't know, hate. So that's not a good container that's not the highest form of self-expression that you can have. Back to a water analogy or metaphor, I can't really differentiate the difference right now. It's like, imagine you have a physical container like this Topo Chico, and it has holes in it. So your container is faulty and your water cannot be held. So you don't have a good container. And I think that creativity is kind of the same. Like when I moved here in this house, like it is chaotic. There's like stuff happening all the time, people coming through. where, there's like a lot of stuff happening, but it feels like a very loving, supportive environment. I was only planning on being here for 3 months, and the first week that the boys were here, this is an Airbnb that we're staying at, so like everything was already here, which is amazing as well. But the first week that these guys were here, I came starting on week 3. They locked in until next December. They didn't even tell me this. Like, we fully met our landlord, and I was just like, oh, that's nice of him to want to meet us. That's cool. And yeah, it's because they locked in until not only 12 months, but 15. So as of right now, I'm kind of unsure of if I want to commit to that, because that wasn't really my expectation, but I do really like Austin. And again, I am a 27-year-old woman. And it's funny because when I first moved into your mom's house, I was 25 and all the other people were 22. And now Chris is 23, Max is 20, and Simon is 22, I think. Younger people see the digital world as their oyster, where I have been on the internet for a long time doing this exact thing. And it's like catching up. Reality and the online world are catching up. But for so long, like, there was no one in my physical surrounding like doing the same thing. So I'm kind of used to being around like younger people, and I honestly don't notice the difference a lot of the time. Of course, I notice it, like, this is all their first time living outside in like a home outside of college. All of them dropped out. So some of them have college experience, but this is like their first time like living out on their own. So again, like, I've really been liking my experience, but what I'm trying to do, I think, is at this point in my life, like, I am also doing like a writing course, which I mentioned, like, I was writing an essay. That was like kind of last on my list of announcements, because I want to announce that and ask you guys or direct you guys. I don't know if I actually even want to share it that much, because I kind of wanted to do this so that I could create a sense of like when I first started YouTube, and it was like kind of my own little world. But if you guys want to, you can check out my Substack that I'm posting on. I'll be posting on it once a week. I'm already behind in my writing course. Just so much stuff has been happening, but that's no excuse. I have no excuses. I'm going to catch up, but I should have a post up right now, and I'll be posting like once a week for the next few weeks at least. But that's also something that I really am trying to do more. And even for like podcasts, like, I don't know if I need my own space at this current point in time. That's not really an option for me. I have to get back and like see if I can make things work and get myself together to put myself in a position to do that. So this has been amazing, and I think they want me to stay. I mean, they tell me that they want me to stay, and they're like, what can we do to make that happen? But I'm open, and I am trying to figure out what I want to do next. But yeah, I was only planning on being here for 3 months, and so I didn't pack a single pair of pants. I don't really know how that happened, but I literally went thrifting. The amount of clothes, the lack of clothes that I brought here is like astounding. And I actually rented this whole outfit. This is like the first time that I'm wearing these from Rent the Runway, because one of my favorite YouTubers, Jill's, who talks like a lot about like feminine energy, she suggested the idea on one of her videos, like her last video that I watched, and I was like, that is a great idea. I'm going to try that out, because I'm relaunching my podcast. Like, I want to do interviews with other people, and I also want to do them in person, because there are so many people in Austin. There are like all of the biggest podcasters are here. This is a great place to be. And I was just like working out at my gym, and the thought just like hit me. I'm just like, there's like so much potential opportunity to meet people that I'm like genuinely really excited. Like the echolocation thing. Like I've lived in LA, I've lived in New York. There are plenty of creators there, but I've met like, so many different creators, and I don't want to just meet creators that are like the biggest creators. I want to meet the creators who I would vibe with and who I could have like conversation with. Like, I loved meeting Jade because I feel like she was on the same wavelength. We had the same interests. She loves yoga. She was talking about like spirituality and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like those types of people are honestly, so many of those types of people are here. So I want to put myself out there and like start my podcast again now that I can actually do episodes in person. And so I again, didn't have a single pair of pants. So I was like, you know what? I'll try this little platform thing. And these are the only 2 things that I've tried on so far, and I really like them. And it was funny because the only thing I did really pack was like 3 different dresses, and I never wear dresses. And Simon was like, maybe this is a sign for you to change up your wardrobe. So I was like, you know what? I'll take this as a sign. I've been wearing more dresses lately. It's been kind of fun. It's been so hot in Texas still. So it's been like very nice and freeing, but I just kind of want to do things differently. And honestly, it is kind of like symbolic. And if you're looking at life like a creative way of being, a creative act, creative way of living, then I like that symbolism too. So the container is one thing. I think to unblock, you have to have a supportive container, and my family is like super supportive of what I do. But it's also just nice to be in a place where other people are doing the same thing. Like we'll have editing parties, and I hadn't done that since your mom's house. And there's nothing better than sitting in misery of editing with other people. It's just like, it's nice. Not always in misery, but that's why I love like being in these environments, is because like you can't really find that everywhere. And to have like everyone doing that, and they're like, you know, putting out a lot more videos than I am, it's very nice. Another thing, I honestly think ending toxic relationships. This last year, I've done like a lot of examining. I'm like a very highly sensitive person, and people can absolutely physically drain my energy. And I'm very like intuitive, and I don't know, like it's a blessing and a curse, because I think a lot of people, I'm very approachable, and like I love people and connecting with people, but it's a double-edged sword, because people can take a lot from me and I'll give it to them willingly. And so the only way to prevent that is to have boundaries. And as a people-pleasing girl, I think especially women deal with this, but I mean guys do too. But just by nature of our society, this can happen to girls a lot. And so learning boundaries, and honestly sometimes that means literally ending relationships, is something that I've kind of been doing. And I was talking to a friend who I was like, maybe you should consider ending this toxic relationship in your life. And stuff like journaling helps a lot, because if you're constantly, no one wants to end relationships. It's never fun. But if you find yourself constantly being drained by another person, and I call them mosquito people or energy vampires, it's like mosquitoes are not evil by nature, but they will suck your blood. And sometimes people are just like that. Like maybe it's just like a mismatch of like character or nature or something, but they will just take and take and take from you. And if you're a people pleaser, or if you're kind-hearted, you'll continuously give. And it's sometimes hard to recognize that, because you wouldn't ever do that to people, but people will do that to you sometimes. Not everyone, but some people will. So it's really important, I think, to have like data points, because you never again think that people would do that or would have that in their nature. So doing stuff like journaling, like if you come away physically exhausted, like with a headache, this literally happens to me sometimes. I have a headache, I'm physically exhausted, I need to like rest after, then that is an energy taker. And so either taking space or drawing boundaries, or that kind of taking those data points and over time looking at them and being like, net overall, is this person just continuously taking from me and not actually giving me anything in return? And it's not a transactional way to look at it. It's just like, if you're a giver, then you will continuously give. You have to cut and draw the line in some places, and you can't give to everyone. And so you want to have people surrounding you that give reciprocally. So that's kind of another, I think, important thing for unblocking, is seeing what relationships just like continuously take, and then ending the ones that do. The last thing that I have been doing that I think has been really kind of helpful is I have been writing letters. So again, I've always really liked writing. I journal all the time, and I'm kind of a more introspective person. And I started doing this like in high school to my parents. Like if I had something that I needed to say or didn't want to do something, I think I wrote them like 2 letters in high school just to express myself as a way of expression. And then I did this in kind of a more confronting way when I had something to say to like one of my best friends growing up. But I wrote her a letter, and in hindsight, it was kind of confronting. And I honestly should have asked her if she had like the space or if I could, or if she would want to receive a letter. But I just kind of sent it to her because I was just like, at the time, my thought process was like, we have been friends for so long. Like, I think if she would want to hear these things, from me, if I want to tell her them. And so I sent her a letter, and then I was kind of just like, it's been on my mind since I sent her that letter like years ago. And I was like, I really want to send her a letter of like just gratitude because she's been a super important person in my life. And it's just been floating in the back of my head. And the thing is, I think all of these things kind of add up. If you have like a lot of emotional baggage or unfinished loops in your head, like you think that you can just move on, like you think you can put the lid over the dirty pot, put the boxes in the corner where you don't see them. These are examples of our house, but I think subconsciously like these things all add up. And it's like you have all these things that are just like sitting at the surface that are just taking up space, and maybe to go deeper you need to actually address those things. And so I not only sent like a nice, like loving letter to my friend that I've been wanting to send for since I sent the first one. I also sent like another one of the kind of more, I don't want to say confrontational, but just like a letter that just detailing all of like what has been on my mind and things that I haven't communicated. And in sending this letter, I fully was prepared to just be like, okay, if this person doesn't receive this well, first of all, I asked them if they would want to receive the letter, and they were like, yes, I would love to hear what you have to say. And in my head, I was like, this could end our friendship. But that is kind of like the boundary that I needed to draw of like, these are all the things that have hurt me in our relationship. In my head, I was like, if they can't like accept these things, or if they don't, I don't know. It was just like kind of a way where I was like, it was very emotional to write. And I wrote it like 5 different times because I wrote it in my journal, and then I put it in my computer, and then I wrote it. So it like really did come from the heart. But in a way, like that was also just like, okay, if this is the end of our friendship, like that is just like a reality that I have to make to respect myself, basically. So I don't know, like all these different things I really feel helped in my unblocking, where I genuinely have made more progress on like my things. And like the weird thing is like, not only am I working on my creative projects that I was like so excited for, that I've been sitting on for like months, but I even started like just writing like poetry. And it's not like I've ever written poetry or want to write poetry. It just like came into my head. That's kind of like what Elizabeth Gilbert talks about. I'm also reading this book, Big Magic. My sister has been telling me to read this book forever, and Ryan Eng recommended this book. He was like, you need to read it. And she believes that magic or creativity is kind of like in the age of like, I don't know, the Romantic era. I don't know which era it is, but people were thought to be geniuses. Like Mozart is a genius. I'm reading a different book where they talk about Mozart that I just read today. But she thinks that she presents it as like they have genius. Like a genius comes to them, where it's like a creative idea comes in the form of a thought. And if you don't take advantage of it, and if you don't take it on, it will actually just go to a different channel, so that that person could be a vessel for that creative idea that needs to be brought into the universe. So that's kind of what she presents it as. And that's kind of how I've been feeling about my synchronicity video. It's just like, this just fell into my lap. every single event that happened. Even the idea, like this guy, I think Benedict, that I met at this event called Summit, which is where I became really good friends with Chris. I was going to say, like, in my introduction to him, he is like kind of the reason why I agreed to move in with these boys, because I just knew him and trusted him so much from what I know. So, what was I saying with that? But yeah, so even the idea, like down to the name, synchronicity in New York City, was came in the form of like another person, and then just every single event that happened just happened to happen. So it's not even like me doing anything, it's just like literally coming to me. So yeah, I've been like even writing poems. I wrote a song. Again, never had any desire to write a song. It just came into my brain. And the weird thing is, it keeps like, I'll just be like walking on my little walk, and then the tune will come into my head, and it's like, and I'm just like, okay, then I'll just start singing this song. It's so weird. And I'll even forget the lyrics that I made myself, but it took me like 3 minutes to write. And the ending is not great. Like, I think the ending could be adjusted, but every other line, I'm just like, this honestly makes sense like as a song, and I feel like it's representative of where I'm at in my life and like my next chapter moving forward. So yeah, crazy stuff. I think it's not only unblocking, I think it's unlocking. And it's funny because the guys like have this thing where it's like, I got an unlock, where they'll have some realization and they'll call it an unlock. But I truly think that like me and doing all these things that were like blocking my brain, that's even kind of the premise of morning pages, is like, morning pages, you're supposed to do 30 minutes of writing or 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing. And the idea is to bring everything that is top of mind in your brain onto paper so that you can live a more creative life. Okay, the boys are downstairs. I think they're getting ready to leave for the concert. They're locking the door. My voice is like going out because I've just been talking too much. But I feel like I've gotten like truly all of my updates. I can't even believe that I'm talking for this long. Okay, so what am I doing right now? I just announced my writing thing. That was like a whole other synchronistic line of events. Like, it was really weird. I'll just go through this really fast, just like another little synchronicity story. So I started writing my letter to my best friend, the gratitude, like love letter, basically. And it was really funny because she invited me to go to Hamilton, the Broadway play, in Alaska. I had no idea that they were even in Alaska. And, you know, it's like, I don't know, it was really cool. And I knew nothing about Hamilton, the show. She just was like, you should get this ticket. It's $33. And I was like, okay. She like was really pushing me to go. And I had literally been writing this letter to her, and I was trying to do it before she left, because she actually left Alaska for like the first time since like college. And I wanted to get it to her before, and I didn't end up finishing it before, so I had to send it to her. But she had me come with her to Hamilton, and I loved the show. Like, I liked it so much, I took my mom for her birthday. The tickets were not $33 then, but I was watching the show, and it's all about basically Alexander Hamilton and how he affected a lot of change literally through pen and paper by his writing. He was like the early day influencer, influencing the political decisions of like the founding fathers. But basically, he just like affected change through his pen and paper, just like simply writing and spreading his thoughts through writing. And it was kind of funny to me that I was like, literally, I kind of felt stupid. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm being dramatic by sending these letters. And then I was just like, you know what? Writing is very impactful. Like, it can be impactful. It can be life-changing, whatever. And so I was like writing this letter, and then I watched this Broadway show about how this guy affected a lot of change through writing. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to send these letters. And then my first week here, we've been going to like different coffee shops, and we went to UT Austin to go to the library. And we were on the first floor because the boys got Chipotle, and they were just like eating their Chipotle bowls. and burritos. And I just like look around, and the only posters on the wall are all like this Hamilton College Award, whatever. It just like is this Hamilton related thing. And then I'm like, oh, cool. I just like saw Hamilton. I know who that is. Then I go out with Ryan and Elle and Natalie, who are another part of like the group that are here. Actually, only Ryan's here right now, but we go out and we go to Rainy Street in Austin, and then we get back or I get back, and I'm just like scrolling on Twitter, and then I see this little tweet for this writing course, and I'm just like, okay, I've been saying that I want to be a writer. Like even in your mom's house podcast, I'm like, yeah, I've always wanted to be a writer. And I thought about it. I looked at this like application for this like little scholarship for this course. It was still really a lot for me, at least for this current time. But I was like, the whole point of the course, it's called Rite of Passage. And the whole point of the course is just to get you to publish your writing online. And it's funny because we're 3 weeks in and I still haven't published. But I think I'm really getting closer. And I really have been. I don't know. I'm not going to make excuses for myself, but I've been doing a lot. But I really thought about it, and I was like looking at the questions, and they're like, link your favorite piece of writing that you've done. And I have writing that I really like, and it's literally from like 2017 when I was in college, and it was for a writing class. And it's just funny to me. I write all the time in my journals, but I never write publicly because I think that writing is the highest form of expression for your brain. I think it's the most representative of your actual thoughts, because in a video I could be like, oh, I don't know who Hamilton is. Like, I don't know anything. And you can kind of see that I'm joking, whatever, I'm being playful. Writing, there's like it's very straightforward. And so I think that I get really intimidated by writing, and I've tried for so many years to like tweeting. Twitter is my favorite like platform to consume because I love reading and like words, and I learn a lot from it. I mean, now it's just like I need to get off Twitter. Anyway. But I have been saying for years that like I want to be a writer, and I want to like write my own book someday. And like thinking about it, I haven't done anything to move that goal forward. And I am doing a lot of stuff right now. But if that's like one of my ultimate goals, I was just like, okay, maybe I actually should do this course that I just like happened to come across at this point in time that was like due that Sunday, or like I think I saw it on a Friday, and it was like due that Sunday. And I'm not going to go into this part of it because it's just like a lot, like synchronicity with like lightning and stuff. But I don't know. It just felt all very guided for this to all culminate into just me enrolling in this course. And it's honestly been really cool, and I will feel really good when I publish. I was getting kind of frustrated with myself because I am behind in the course until I again like looked back, and I was like, okay, what has been going on in my life? Like I was getting really mad because I'm just like, I haven't published anything. I think I'm being like a little bit perfectionistic about it, but also it's just like, I for the last week prior was like hosting friends. I went to my brother's wedding. I was hosting my mom and sister. I literally moved to a new city. So it's just like a lot of stuff. And I think this is truly the first week that I've like actually felt very settled. And I'm just like, wow, this is the first time that I actually feel like I can concentrate and actually dedicate like a lot of time to sitting down and doing the thing that I'm doing. So I'm doing a writing course. Check out my Substack if you want to. I'll link that in the description box below. I'm still like very, very nervous about sharing my writing online. I'm not going to lie. And I'm probably going to overthink it for a really long time. But my family friend was just like, that is like a lot for you. Like this is like a huge step forward. And it really is. Like I've been saying this for years, and this is like something I've been trying to do for a long time. So I'm like actually moving in the right direction, like taking those steps. A lot of everything that I'm doing, it just feels very like aligned. And again, it's kind of like not until you have the contrast or just like look back sometimes where you can actually see all of this growth that has happened. So I think that is it. That's my entire little list. I actually covered every single point except for one tiny little point, but maybe I'll cover that in a different podcast because this is just way too long. I'm at 2 hours. So those are all of my updates. This was a lot longer than I thought it would be, but I don't know. I feel like I really said everything that I wanted to say and probably even more. And I feel like my throat chakra has been cleared. I just spit everywhere in some way. So if you sat through this whole thing, comment below Jade and Clover or something fun to let me know, because I don't know. That's a lot. And I appreciate you being here if you did. So I am going to go change and then make dinner. So that is it for now. Thank you all again. And I will talk to you very soon. Bye.